Lubbock's First News, Ambassador Tibor Nagy Jr. is in the house already negotiating diplomacy here. I said we were going to make him say, get your lazy hind out of bed. He was like, for the Bunza wake-up call. He says, can I use a substitute word for Heiner? If you must.
Get your lazy derrieres out of bed.
Okay.
Especially if you're going to class.
Okay. Anyway, we'll do the Buns Up Wake Up Call sometime between now and 8 a.m. Welcome to the program. Thanks for coming in on short notice.
No, absolutely. My pleasure.
I didn't realize that Randy was going to be traveling today. I didn't find that out until I think it was Friday night.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Or Saturday night. Saturday night. Anyway, man, a lot of stuff going on. We got the Iran nuclear deal last week. We were in quadruple overtime. Now we're in sextuple overtime. Well,
now we have a framework, not a deal, just a framework. Mm-hmm. And now that's going to be negotiated further until June, whatever, when they're going to end up with the details.
When you say that.
So what exactly is in the framework?
I hear Cheech and Tommy Chong singing the I've been framed.
So what is actually in the framework?
Yeah, the framework kind of is a skeleton on which now they've got to put the flesh and the muscles. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what the final details come out of this. But remember, at the end of the day, what the Iranians really want is to have the sanctions taken off.
Right.
And what the U.S. really wants is to make it very difficult for Iran to get to a nuclear bomb quickly. Mm-hmm. What Israel wants is no deal at all. The Russians and, that group want the sanctions off. They never wanted the sanctions on. Germany wants the sanctions off. So as we were saying, there's actually two sets of negotiations going on here. One between U.S. and company and the Iranians, but the other one between the U.S. and the rest of the group.
Let's dive in a little bit deeper here. Okay. You say that the Germans don't want the sanctions, never wanted the sanctions.
No.
Why?
Well, because for them, the Iranians are wonderful customers. Remember, Germany is all about exporting. They produce so much that they have to export about half their economy to make it.
So there are a lot of Beamers driving around in Iraq?
Absolutely.
Or
Iran? There certainly were.
Before the
now
sanctions?
Now they're having problems getting the spare parts. Mm. So for Germany, Iran has been a traditional huge export market, and they want that market back. I'm sorry to say it this way, but at the end of the day, for many people, it's all about the money.
Same deal for the Chinese?
Well, the Chinese are depending on, remember the Chinese desperately need raw materials, including oil. And for them, the Iranians were a wonderful source of oil. If Iranian oil comes back on the market, the Chinese will be able to pay less for it. I don't know if you noticed or not, but the Saudis have just upped the price of Mideast oil today. That's 2 months in a row that the price has gone back up. So they're hoping to get, lots and lots of, I don't know how many millions of barrels a day of oil back on the market once the Iranians can start pumping again.
But the whole nuclear thing is so much more important, or you would think it would be so much more important to those countries because they live right there.
Yeah, but they don't see themselves. Number one, they don't see themselves as a target. And number two, remember, nuclear technology is 60 years old. Mm-hmm. These days, any country that has any, scientific industrial base could actually put together a bomb. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so when you get down to what percentage enrichment and, the Iranians going to be 6 months away from making a bomb or 1 year away from a bomb, I truly don't think that is that critical. It really is the threat of making a bomb. That's the best negotiating card that the Iranians have to play. Because, look, North Koreans have a bomb, and they're certifiably much crazier than the Iranians. Because the Iranians are a real country. The Iranians have the same internal debate about this as the United States is doing. So there's this huge PR game going on, too, that the Iranians have to go back to Iran and say, see, the Americans are unhappy about this, so we got a good deal.
All right. So we're talking about the Iran nuclear deal. Technically, the United States isn't really negotiating. This is kind of
It's a group. The negotiations is between a group and an individual country. And in those kind of negotiations, the individual country always has a better position because the group is never united totally. So the group has to meet and decide what their negotiating position is and then negotiate with the other party. Yeah. And then the other party can play the differences that are among the group against each other.
They need to show a united front if they want to get anywhere.
And also, the Iranians have been negotiating for like 3,000 years.
Right.
And we have a very short attention span anyway. Mm-hmm. The Obama administration is desperate to show something, for posterity. As we were talking, I suspect Kerry would love nothing more than to get that Nobel Peace Prize with the Iranian foreign minister.
Is he really done?
But I don't think that's his main goal.
No, to be true, no, absolutely not. Because I'm convinced everybody's acting in their belief and the best interest of
for
what
they
for their country. Yeah. Absolutely. But there are external pressures too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't get the fact why we never had what was negotiated before, was never followed through on. So why are we doing it again?
Well, the Iranians actually have been pretty good about that. Other countries have not, but the Iranians, again, being somewhat of a civil society and a society of laws, have been fairly good about living up to what they have negotiated before. It's just that they've never negotiated away some of the fundamentals, like giving inspectors rights to their military facilities, and they're holding on to that again. Mm-hmm. And remember, what we dislike about the Iranians more than anything else is their behavior. And these negotiations are not approaching anything with their behavior. We're not going to say stop supporting Hamas, stop supporting Hezbollah, stop supporting Bashar al-Assad, stop giving weapons to these bad guys. Mm-hmm. This is all about a very, very technical nuclear issue for them to get the sanctions off so they can start selling their oil legally in the world market again and getting spare parts for their planes and their facilities.
Because sanctions, they hurt the government to a certain extent, but don't sanctions just mainly hurt the people?
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Cuba.
I mean, in the government they don't care, do they?
Yeah, the government ministers all have Mercedeses.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, got a question or a comment on the line, Sharon, 770-5790. You got one. Welcome to the program. You're on.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
I was reading on Breitbart this morning, and I think the source of the story was a website called Generational News, and they had got someone in there to translate the Farsi version of this agreement that was reached, and it is different and in many places conflicts with what the White House has released as the text of that agreement, which isn't really too surprising.
Yeah, that's not surprising because oftentimes these things are written for their own domestic audience. And since this just is a framework agreement with the details to be worked out later, there can be different interpretations of even the framework.
But huge differences.
Yeah, unfortunately, I wish I could read Farsi. So I don't know, what the substance of it is, but that's not surprising at all.
Where did you hear that story?
It's on Breitbart this morning, Breitbart.com, and scroll down about halfway through, three-quarters of the way through the page, and it talks about the text of the agreement in Farsi and English being radically different.
And usually with these when the final agreement is done, there will be a codicil in that agreement which says which language version is the official one in case of a dispute between different language versions. So that will also it'll probably end up being the English version at the end of the day.
The old lost in the translation truck.
Yeah.
Hey, Sharon, thanks for your call. Appreciate it.
Oh.
Have a good day. Good morning, 757. Tom Laura in conversation with Ambassador Tibor Nagy Jr. Thanks for coming in this morning. Hey,
sure.
Let's talk terrorism. Now basically what we have is it's not Ford versus Chevy like you said. It's not anything like that. Basically, it's
Al-Qaeda versus the Islamic State, or Daesh as they're called in the Arabic world. And, you have various of these regional terrorist groups affiliating with one or the other. Al-Shabaab in Somalia is still very much an Al-Qaeda group, whereas Boko Haram in Nigeria has recently pledged fealty to the Islamic State. And both of these groups are trying to prove their relevancy, so they're encouraging their affiliates or even the lone wolves out there, the ones nobody knows about, to commit greater and greater outrages. That's why what Al-Shabaab did in northern Kenya, unfortunately, fits in with this pattern. Al-Shabaab says the Kenyan army is up there in Somalia going after them, so they're going to go after the Kenyan citizenry. When they went through the university there in Garissa, they segregated the Muslim students from the Christian students and did their best to kill as many of the Christian students as they could.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Students at a university. Does this make them feel like men, like big men, that they went in and killed a bunch of students?
They
really?
don't care. The more innocent lives for them, the better, because they figure that will get the Kenyans out of the fight.
Wow.
Kenyan government is bombing, apparently, but I don't know how effective those have been thus far.
I don't know. That's a good signal for their population to show that they're still in the fight, but I don't know how much good that will do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do they really have a force, or are they
no?
just...
The Kenyans have a for East Africa. They have one of the best militaries there, next to the Ethiopians, and they, like I said, they're in Somalia going after Al-Shabaab, and Al-Shabaab can't fight back on the military terrain, so they're going after Nairobi and Garissa and Mombasa and other places.
Wow. Hey, Ambassador Nagy, thanks for joining us this morning. Thanks for swinging the bat for Randy.
Sure, you bet.
Appreciate it.
Thanks a lot for having me.